So once again, like Rohit said, welcome to our Surg info session for fall 2021. We'll do a really quick intro. You already all met us, but I'm Varsha. I'm the facilitator for Surg.
I'm Rohit. I'm also a facilitator for Surg. Use he, him pronouns.
I'm Sarah. I'm the VP of Internal Development and also use I use a she, her pronouns.
I'm Brittany. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Vice President of External Affairs and Communications.
Hi, I'm Meg. I also use she, her pronouns, and I am a research committee lead this semester.
Hi, I'm Ankita. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm also a committee lead this semester.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I use she/her pronouns, and I'm one of the research committee leads this semester as well.
Great. So you might be thinking, what is Surg? Who is Surg? Okay. So Surg is an undergraduate-led research group. We are affiliated with the UC Berkeley Office of Sustainability. That's actually how we were founded. And we're guided by the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 goals guided around the world. They're really cool. I would advise you to take a look at them if you haven't already. Next slide, please.
So now I'll share a little bit about our goals. So first, we want to research cross-cutting and sustainability issues. So a lot of our work is interdisciplinary, and we work to move what we learned from the classroom out onto current issues. Second, we wish to empower undergraduate voices. We have a lot of undergraduates in this club, and we wish to raise them up on the stage and give them a space to share their visions. Third, we also would like to increase access to research on campus, since programs like URAP and SPUR from CNR are very competitive. We want to give more opportunities to work under faculty with their research. Next slide, please.
So I'll go over the structure of Surg. So we are made up of undergraduate researchers who will join working research groups that will be outlined later in the presentation to tackle an area of sustainability tied to the UN SDG goals, contribute to a collaborative research report, and present their findings to key stakeholders at a research symposium later in this semester. I just want to emphasize that even though we have a leadership team, the club is committed to fostering, I guess, a horizontal nature of the organization. So if you have any ideas to better Surg, please feel free to let me or your committee leads or the facilitators know. And yeah, so the structure is always, I guess, subject to change depending on how many people are interested in what projects. Our current structure, so at the moment, Rohit and Varsha are our wonderful facilitators. So they coordinate between groups, connecting groups to resources, doing administrative tasks, and leading all group meetings. And then working with Varsha and Rohit is Brittany as the VP of External Development and myself as the VP of Internal Development. So we just assist with all administrative questions, recruiting, and with organizing all the meetings throughout the semester. So branching off from the facilitator, the committee leads. So they start the dialogue around the research ideas, coordinate team meetings, and then create the timelines, and also assist with the research themselves and help out with the project. They'll also connect you with academic mentors that they've reached out to previously. And then there's student researchers. So I guess you guys do the research and just be super excited to work with, as I mentioned before, some pretty cool mentors and do research on some really important topics. Next slide.
Okay, so next we'll be talking about what exactly the responsibilities and duties of student researchers, hopefully all of y'all here, will be doing as part of Surg. So he's kind of split it up into two main parts. The first part being doing the actual research. So this would be around 2 to 3 hours a week, including committee meetings, org-wide meetings, as well as actually conducting the research. So in terms of actually doing the research, that involves gathering data, participating in the research project, writing your analysis pieces, conducting literature reviews, anything that your group really needs on the research front of it. At the end of the semester, we will all have a Surg symposium that we've done for the past 2 semesters of Surg. And so all of y'all will work on contributing to our final project or report or whatever your final presentation looks like to make sure that we can present that to stakeholders at the end of the semester to kind of showcase your work and showcase all the things that you've been doing. So that's kind of the connected research part of Surg. And the second half is more of the Surg community. So that's participating in our club's events and socials. So we will have bi-weekly club meetings every Monday from 6 to 7. So hopefully you can make those. We'll also be hosting some professional development and faculty seminars with our mentors, as well as some other really cool people in the industry, in the field. So those are really great ways to form connections and meet people that'll be put on by Surg. And then also participate in socials. There are some really great ideas of things that we can do as a community to kind of foster community in Surg. One thing to note is that obviously a pandemic time, this is all changing and transitioning. So we will keep you all updated to the best of our ability on whether this is virtual or in person. But really want to emphasize that once again, like Sarah said, this is very horizontal. If you have any flexibility, you have a lot of flexibility in whether you want it to be in person or virtual, and we can definitely work with you on making sure that this experience suits you the best that it can. So that's a quick overview, responsibilities and duties. Also want to note that this is typical for like the more Surg-led research and the CNI projects that we have detailed in our projects. Maybe a little bit different than this, but once again, you'll be still conducting research and still participating in our club events. And we'll talk a little bit more about those a little bit later. So now I'm going to go over a couple of past projects that we've done as part of Surg, and you got to hear kind of our Surg journey, and hopefully it'll inspire you to also join.
Yeah, hi. So I was one of the first committee leads for Surg, and so all of last year I ran a research project around wildfires and climate resilience with the goal of having an interdisciplinary analysis from joint undergraduate work. We were aiming to tackle the questions of how much did a role did climate change play in the 2020 wildfires, and how can our communities work to prevent and respond to future crises. Something I want to highlight is like this photo here it's a pretty like visceral photo from like that around that time, because it's highlighting how COVID was interacting with these wildfires, and really it was an unsafe place to be in California, and it still is today, unfortunately. Our research didn't change that, but so our research, we knew that we wanted to publish our research by the end of it, and we said that from the get-go, but unfortunately that conflicted with a fully interdisciplinary analysis. So really, this is where I think Surg shines best, is because we learned research experience on the job. So we started looking at housing data, public health smoke data, biodiversity, forestry data, and mapping. And through this and meeting with our mentor and all this, we realized we had to take all of that down to 2 projects. So we ended up looking at studying vulnerable areas of historic fire records and looking at GIS mapping. And then our second report was on the wildfire smoke and its effect in the Bay Area. So the first one, it seems as though it was approved for publishing in one, like a global international journal, and then the second one to be published as a book chapter in an international book on global sustainable development. The second paper is still in the process. We're aiming to publish it in Berkeley Scientific. So this is really exciting, and this is something that I really have a lot of chance to learn from. I know everyone in the team got a lot of experience, and I feel a lot more prepared personally going into future research and doing my senior thesis. Thank you. Yeah, Farsha, you want to take it?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's common throughout Surg projects is that the committee leads and hopefully all the researchers on them are really passionate about the topic and really want to see it succeed. So my topic was around environmental justice in the UC Berkeley Sustainability Plan. So essentially, the sustainability plan was released in 2020, and my group and I went through the sections of it that we thought were the most important to students, which were culture and learning and health and sustainability, and analyzed each point in terms of how environmental justice is already incorporated and how EJ could be further incorporated based off of literature, based off of past universities. And I think the coolest part about our project was that we interviewed like 20 plus universities and schools across the globe essentially, and asked them how their sustainability plan was written, was able to gather feedback from how they integrated EJ. And finally, we were able to put this all in a report, compiled together, and present it to our Chief Sustainability Officer here at Berkeley, and kind of give her some more insight on how our sustainability plan that is really focused on sustainability and infrastructure can be more focused on EJ. And like Rohit's group, we're also were able to be published in the UN Global Climate Forum. That's being presented at the COP26 in Paris, I believe, in November. So that's really exciting that we're able to do something that we're all really passionate about, and have it be published. And for more information on like the reports that we wrote, you can go to our website and kind of read those or look through those to see what we did. I'll pass it off to Sarah and Brittany next.
So now I'll speak a little bit about our project from last semester. It was titled Microplastics in the Bay Area and its Effect on Sea Life and Human Health. So this was a really great project because we were able to work with a mentor coming from the California Water Board, as well as bouncing ideas off the San Francisco Estuary Institute, who are also doing work in microplastics. So in starting this project, we had two primary questions. First was the extent to which local sea life is affected by the presence of microplastics. And secondly, how the consumption of microplastics in seafood directly affects human health. So now I'll pass it on to Sarah to go more about into our project and what we did.
Sure. So I was the other committee lead with Brittany on the microplastics team. And so one part of our research was compiling data on the way microplastics travel through the water column and how this then impacts local sea life by examining existing microplastic studies and data with a focus on the Berkeley community and the San Francisco Bay Area. And then the second part was then examining the effects of consuming microplastics in food on human health, which was done by collecting open source data, particularly within the UC Berkeley dining hall facilities. And then we also looked at how microplastics affect vulnerable communities. So a lot of our research came to show that like how microplastics relates to, I guess, like an environmental justice lens. And then finally, all of this research, I guess, highlighted just how important it is to increase public awareness, which we found was incredibly low within the community. So yeah, we'll pass it on now to the active committee leads, research projects. I think.
Yeah, so one of our research committees this semester is going to be about Strawberry Creek management, and I'm going to be leading this committee. So what we're aiming to do with this project is to kind of explore past and present relationships between Strawberry Creek's ecology, management related to the creek in terms of policy, as well as like infrastructure to manage the creek's sustainability, and as well as like past restoration of the creek, because in the past, like UC Berkeley hasn't been able to properly manage like pollutants that end up going into the creek, and it ends up draining into like letting out into San Francisco Bay. So we're also going to be looking for opportunities to improve creek management. And within this project, we really want to be able to like explore how human interactions with the creek end up impacting it and causing environmental problems, like either close to us, like on campus, or further downstream. And we're going to be integrating like an environmental justice focus. as well as like trying to identify opportunities to improve creek management using like scientific, infrastructural, and policy-based perspectives. So our research question broadly is going to be like, what is the current condition of Strawberry Creek and what are some opportunities to improve sustainable and equitable management on campus? But we can kind of treat this as like a starting point, and within our research committee, we're gonna refine it together and like further explore like what specifics we can get into more with the project. And then some of the goals are also going to be collaborative, and we really want to make sure that the research process for all of our researchers this semester is like that our researchers this semester are able to like set their goals and achieve them through this project. But currently some of the goals of this project are to understand historical and current uses of Strawberry Creek, to analyze management through interdisciplinary perspectives, and identify opportunities to improve creek management. And some of the skills or interests that we're looking for researchers on this committee would be to have skills in policy analysis or like data visualization, and some interests, like if you're interested in watersheds or pollution and urban water systems, environmental justice or intersections between like science and policy and society. All of that would be super great if you're to be on our Strawberry Creek research team. And also I wanted to mention that in terms of skills, if you don't have those skills, that's totally okay. But like if you do have them, it would definitely be a plus to our research team. And we can go to the next slide. So some of the relevant SDGs would be, or sustainable development goals would be SDG 6, which is about clean water and sanitation, SDG 10, which is about reduced inequalities, and 11, which is about having sustainable cities and communities. And I think it's also important to note that like there are definitely more SDGs that can be applicable to this project. And like as we continue to develop our research this semester, we can start to see like which other SDGs are also applicable to this research. And we can go to the next slide. And this is our mentor, Dr. Sasha Harris-Levitt. She is currently working with the Berkeley Water Center, and she actually has had a lot of experience with Strawberry Creek and like Strawberry Creek's infrastructure. And she's also really interested in like equitable decision making and equitable water systems. And she's like worked on projects related to kind of like these worked on projects that show what Strawberry Creek's like sustainable infrastructure related to stormwater runoff looks like. And she's like helped develop little walking tours of that you can find online. And if you are part of this committee, we're definitely going to take a look at the reports that she's made in the past, and she's going to help us help guide us through this research process. And we're really excited to be working with her because she's had a lot of very relevant experience. And we also have a lot of other like professors and faculty at Berkeley who have been working on things related to Strawberry Creek and urban water systems who are willing to like talk to us, and it'll definitely be a great learning experience and research process. Yeah. Go to the next slide.
Yeah, so another one of the projects me and Ankita are introducing this semester is on consumer culture and climate change. Our goal with this project is to kind of understand how mass consumerism and overconsumption are exacerbating the risks of climate change. And throughout this project, we want to identify factors that contribute to overconsumption in the global north, specifically in the US. So looking into the historical context of consumer culture and understanding the root causes of the problem. We also want to critically examine like existing solutions, such as like the productions of sustainable goods and or solutions involving local communities. We also want to discuss possible solutions to overconsumption from a large scale systems and a roots perspective. And some topics of interest we would be diving into in this project would be topics like degrowth, minimalism, and understanding like this cultural shift in consumerism. And I'll pass it to Ankita to talk a little bit more about the questions we'll look into.
Yeah, so to further break down our topic, some questions that we will probably include but are not limited to include at what points in time did overconsumption begin having an indirect impact on climate change? And then what are the root causes of overconsumption and what is the local and global impact? How do we define responsible consumption? And what are existing solutions and initiatives, both local and global, that empower communities while changing people's behavior towards consumption? And so for the end goals for our project, by the end of fall semester, we hope to have completed parts 1, understanding overconsumption, and part 2, critically examining current solutions, which leaves the topic of examining root-based solutions and reviewing for spring semester. Our overall end goal includes maybe publishing our research or simply just preparing material for climate action contests. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this project will focus on 3 different sustainable development goals. And the first goal is SDG 9, which is to build a resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. And the second goal is SDG 12, which is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. During the beginning of the project, we want to learn how to distinguish between responsible consumption and overconsumption and how that relates to overproduction. And the third goal is SDG 13, which is taking urgent action to tackle climate change and its impacts. And we're researching these goals specifically because of their vague and often contradicting statements, such as sustainable industrialization or responsible consumption. I'll pass it back to Kayla.
Yeah, in terms of like who we're looking for in a team for this project, we're definitely open to a diverse team of people from all majors. We don't really require any prerequisite knowledge or technical experience. We just would love if applicants are interested in learning about like small and large scale solutions to the climate crisis and analyzing them from more of a sociological lens. And we would also love if applicants would be interested in learning more about like consumer and corporate action and are willing to challenge norms and systems implemented now to tackling climate change. Next slide, please. And yeah, for the remainder of this year, our research project mentor is graduate student Arthur Mallet-Diaz. He's a master's student in the Energy and Resources group, and he's interested in this like intersection of sustainability and empowering local communities through climate solutions. He has been a GSI for several classes that examine mainly like the topic of sustainable consumption and has worked as a fellow at the Global Urban Development, researching issues related to business ethics, sustainability, topics like resource constraints and labor issues and ecosystem impacts. Yeah, I'll pass it on to next slide, please.
Yeah, so this is kind of a new thing for Surg. And I want to start off by saying these projects are not directly affiliated with Surg. So these projects are supporting the UC climate mitigation offset projects in California and East Africa. So I don't know if you're familiar with the University of California 2025 Carbon Neutrality Initiative, where the entire University of California is pledged to go carbon neutral by 2025. And so here are some of the projects that they're working on to get us to carbon neutrality. And so through some meetings, through talking to the researchers working on this, we have 4 projects we would love to share with you for where these projects working internationally and in California are looking for students to help out and gain a lot of experience. So these projects are going to be separate research project with professionals. So it's a chance to learn a lot. And I think it's a really great opportunity. You will get direct support from us, the Surg facilitators, and you're invited to all of our meetings and our symposium. So the projects range from writing project design documents, which are the carbon emissions reduction calculations, interacting with the affected communities, and research supports for the carbon mitigation aspect. So they're pretty varied projects. So we're going to dive more deep into them, and then in our application you can learn the specifics about each of them. Next slide, please.
So the first one is the climate and conservation team. And so this project is really, okay. This project is really going to be focused on looking at fuel stuff data in Tanzania and looking at how pollution from air stubs disproportionately affects the Black women that lead much of the cooking. So we're looking at the project design document that the team already has, interact with the Tanzanian team to see what their input is and kind of work with them on some of the affected and some of their affected folks. And then also preparing a proposal or like a final report for the UC Office of the President in terms of their data and their stub field data. So some skills that they would prefer is working with data in Excel, greenhouse gas quantification, and interest or experience in sub-Saharan Africa.
Cool. So this is our next project. So this is red seaweed production to mitigate methane emissions in California livestock. So what this really is they found that this seaweed, if you give them to cows or cattle, it actually reduces their methane production, or which is a very potent greenhouse gas. And globally, cattle produce 4% of greenhouse gas emissions. So this is kind of huge. And if they realize this works, they want to scale it up, try to reduce emissions worldwide. So the project is building greenhouse gas models and economic models and determining the cultivation and processing scenarios. With the goal is for the UC to scale the project up. So what they're looking for is for technical policy, analytics, some programming, and an economic background is preferred. However, they did make clear that anyone who's interested in this would do a great job. However, if you're in EAP, or Environmental Economics and Policy, Society and the Environment, or CRS, like I particularly tell you to take an interest in this one. Next slide, please.
So the next project is the Unite to Light project, and this team essentially distributes solar lanterns to households in East Africa. And the users have said they really, really like them and that they're actually working on replacing the kerosene lanterns in these places in East Africa, as these like solar lanterns give much better light. So that's super, super cool. So the project looks like is once again kind of looking at their existing project development doc and making sure that it meets all the standards and is updated with input from stakeholders. So we're working with the folks in East Africa to make sure that it actually reflects them and their info and their opinions, and then making sure that it kind of achieves different like listings on the gold standard carbon market. So this project is definitely a little bit less technical. It seems like you can really like do a lot of skills here in research and technical writing through this. So definitely would encourage you to apply if you're interested in bolstering a lot of your skills and are interested in kind of a wide variety of things.
Yes, so kind of like the first project, this is about building and replacing wood pellet stoves in Rwanda. So this is actually the most efficient and safe stoves that are available for the region. 1 second. So what's really cool about these stoves is that they actually they improve the air quality of the smoke that comes out of it, and this disproportionately affects the women who are usually cooking all of the food, and it really can affect their health. So the importance of this is to decrease greenhouse gas emissions and help the health of the people living there. So also really cool about this project is that they are looking for students to work for both semesters, which is a really cool opportunity to dive really deep. So the preferred skills they're looking for are for experiment monitoring and research, so trying to see how effective this stove is, analytics, data analysis, and life cycle assessments. Let us know if you have any questions about any of these projects. We'd be happy to answer them. Yeah, that's all for these 4 projects. Next slide, please.
Awesome. So this slide is just a little bit about our application. So apps are due September 11th, which is this Saturday night. You can scan the QR code there or go to our application link at tinyurl.com/surgf21app. There's a couple questions on there with like interest in research and SDGs more broadly. And then we ask a little bit about why you're choosing specific projects. Once again, really want to emphasize that as a club based on democratizing research for undergrads, there really is no like hardcore requirement that you have to have certain skills. We really want everyone here to, we really want to encourage everyone here to apply. This is really a place to grow and learn new skills and not necessarily like one of those clubs that you see on campus that, you know, requires like 10 things before you come in. So I really want to encourage you all to apply. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. We're definitely open to talking with you and learning more about you and personal things. So once again, scan a QR code or click on the app link. I'll pass it off to Sarah to close.
Sorry, trying to find the mute button. Got it. Okay. Hi. So yeah, thank you so much for coming to our fall 2021 info session on your Labor Day weekend. We look forward to reading everyone's apps and getting to know everyone over the semester. On the screen are just our links to the Facebook website and email. Also, we have an Instagram if you want more information on the club that we do. So yeah, that kind of wraps up our Surg info. Are there any further questions? Now I guess is a bit of a question time. And if you don't feel comfortable asking in front of everyone, more than happy to hang around after the Zoom is kind of finished and answer any questions on recruitment or about the club. Yeah. So any questions? Just use the raise hand feature. Yes, sorry. Priya, yes, sorry.